The galactic tribunal chamber loomed, a massive structure of polished obsidian and glowing circuits, filled with representatives from every corner of the known universe. Hundreds of eyes, some organic, others cybernetic, fixated on the accused, ***, the Zalvok warlords, ***, standing at the center of the room. Their crimson scales gleamed under the artificial light, but there was no pride in their stance, only unease. A low hum filled the chamber as Kothrex, the tribunal's lead prosecutor, stepped forward. His reptilian eyes glowed with restrained fury as he activated a holographic display. A moment later, images flickered to life. Human children, frail, frightened, caged like animals in a sterile lab. Some showed signs of exhaustion. Others bore the marks of experimentation. The charges are clear, Kothrex began, his voice razor-sharp. The Zalvok forces abducted human juveniles from the colony on Halcyon 3, subjecting them to invasive studies. They treated them as test subjects, not as sentient beings, not as children, A murmur rippled through the delegates. Some species exchanged uncertain glances. This was not the first war crime the Zalvok had committed. Yet never before had the tribunal been so swift, so absolute in its summons. At the center of the hall, Dr. Evelyn Carter, humanity's representative, remained silent. Her hands were clasped behind her back, her face unreadable. Only her eyes, cold and razor-sharp, betrayed her emotions. Sorvar, the Zalvok's leader, stepped forward, clicking his mandibles in defiance. "We meant no offense," he growled. "Humans are hardy. They survive things other species do not. We merely sought to understand them." Understand them? A new voice interrupted, booming across the hall. Silence fell. Every head turned. Standing at the edge of the tribunal chamber was High General Tarzek of the Zorvani Dominion. A species known for their brutal efficiency in war, his obsidian armor gleamed under the chamber's lights, his 4 muscular arms tense at his sides. His mandibles clicked in a universal sign of barely contained rage. You imprisoned human children? Are you insane?" The Zalvok leader flinched at the sheer intensity of his words. Even the tribunal judges, beings who had witnessed eons of conflict, seemed unsettled. Dr. Carter remained silent, watching, observing. Tarzek stepped forward, slamming one massive fist onto the railing. "You don't understand what you've done. You don't understand what you've unleashed." Another murmur swept the chamber. "Unleashed?" The Zalvok commander hesitated. "They are only children. What harm could?" You still don't get it, do you? Tarzek's voice was low now, almost reverent. "You think you've taken something weak, but in harming their young, you have woken something you cannot stop." Dr. Carter finally spoke. They're already coming. The tribunal chamber fell into absolute silence. One spoke. The air in the tribunal chamber had shifted, thick with something primal, fear. Not from the humans, not from their ambassador, but from the other species present. Those who had fought humans before, those who had survived. Tarzek took a slow breath, his mandibles clicking in grim recollection. "You think humans are like you," he said, addressing the Zalvok leader. "You think they wage war for resources, for territory. But you don't understand what happens when you make it personal." The holograms shifted again. New images, not of children, not of the past few days. Historical footage. A Zorvani war fleet, powerful and unchallenged, descending upon a seemingly weak human outpost centuries ago. Tarzek's voice dropped lower. "We thought the same once, that humans were just another species, that they would surrender when faced with superior firepower." The footage played on. The initial battle was over in hours. The outpost was captured with minimal effort. The Zorvani celebrated. They had won, until they realized what they had done. The next images were raw, unfiltered battlefield recordings. The outpost prisoners, civilians, families, children, separated, detained, treated as insignificant. And then the retaliation began. At first, we didn't even notice, Tarzek admitted. A few patrols missing. Then supply lines cut. Ships sabotaged. The tribunal delegates watched as the footage shifted again. Zorvani soldiers, once dominant, reduced to prey. They weren't fighting an army anymore. They were being hunted. They didn't wait for reinforcements. Tarzek continued. They didn't try to negotiate. They adapted. They turned our own tactics against us. We lost entire divisions to humans with nothing but makeshift weapons and stolen gear. Kothrex, the prosecutor, leaned forward, his expression unreadable. You're saying they were just resilient? The Zorvani general laughed. A dark, hollow sound. Resilient? No. They became something else. Something we had never seen before. Not just warriors. Monsters. More footage. Zorvani forces abandoning their own ships. Fleeing. Terrified. Entire squads refusing to engage because they had seen what happened to those who did. The war ended when we begged for peace, Tarzek admitted. Not because we were losing territory, but because we realize humans don't stop. Not when their young are involved. The tribunal chamber remained deathly silent. The Zalvok leaders shifted uncomfortably. But that was centuries ago. Surely. You think time has made them weaker? Tarzek cut him off. No, they have only become worse. Dr. Carter finally spoke again, her voice calm. You thought you were studying them. She leaned forward, her gaze sharp as a blade. But really, you just gave them a reason to remember why they should fear nothing, and why the rest of you should fear them. Kothrex exhaled slowly, his reptilian eyes scanning the room. The weight of Tarzek's words had settled like a storm cloud over the tribunal chamber. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats, while others sat frozen, realization dawning like the slow rise of a dying sun. You're saying, Kothrex spoke carefully, that the humans will seek retribution? Tarzek shook his head. No, I'm saying there won't be anything left of the Zalvok when this is over. A ripple of unease coursed through the chamber. The Zalvok warlord Sorvar clenched his jaw, his mandibles twitching. He was a conqueror, a leader of warriors. He had faced resistance before. He had crushed it. Yet now, standing in the center of this vast tribunal, surrounded by beings who should have been his allies, he felt alone. Kothrex activated a new data feed, his voice taking on a dangerous edge. We have intelligence reports confirming human military movements. Entire fleets have gone dark. No transmissions, no responses. They are mobilizing. A static-filled hologram flickered to life. A Zalvok spy's last transmission. A grainy, shaking image of a human warship, sleek and black against the void, its engines cold. Silent, watching. Sorvar felt something unfamiliar coil in his gut. Dread. They're preparing, Kothrex continued, but they're not engaging in open war. No demands, no ultimatums, just silence. That silence was worse than any declaration of war. They're waiting, Tarzek murmured. Not for permission, for the right moment. The tribunal erupted. Some species argued for immediate diplomatic outreach. Others whispered of surrender. Not to the tribunal, but to the humans. The humans will listen to reason, one delegate insisted. They are a civilized people, after all. You still don't understand, Tarzek growled. They are civilized, yes, but civilization is the mask they wear. Kothrex turned his gaze to Sorvar. Perhaps it is not too late. Perhaps if you... But Sorvar was no longer listening. His claws gripped the railing as his own thoughts spiraled. He had conquered countless worlds, broken civilizations, enslaved entire species, and yet no species had ever inspired this kind of fear. He had believed humans were just another conquest. Now he understood he had made a mistake, a terrible, irreversible mistake. Across the chamber, the eldest member of the tribunal, an ancient Ilari, finally spoke. Their voice was soft, but it carried through the silence like the whisper of a dying star. "You cannot negotiate with a storm," they said simply. "You can only pray you are not in its path." For the first time, the tribunal members realized the truth. This wasn't a court hearing. It was a funeral that a tense, suffocating silence filled the tribunal chamber. No one spoke. No one moved. The weight of inevitability pressed down on every being present, but none more so than Sorvar. The Zalvok warlord stood motionless, his claws trembling slightly at his sides. He was a conqueror, a predator, a ruler of countless worlds. Yet, for the first time in his long existence, he felt like prey. Dr. Carter observed him with quiet intensity, her expression unreadable. She didn't need to speak. The silence was louder than any words. Then, a new holographic feed flickered to life. A security officer rushed into frame, breathless, terror painted across his alien features. "High Command, we have a problem." His voice cracked with panic. "They're here. The humans, they're already here." Sorvar's eyes widened. "No, that's impossible. The fleet isn't supposed to arrive for..." "They didn't send a fleet," the officer interrupted. "There was no declaration of war, no transmission, no fleet movements. They just appeared." The image shifted to grainy surveillance footage of a Zalvok research facility, the very place where the human children had been held. The alien guards were panicking, scrambling for weapons, shouting in confusion. Then the lights flickered. A deafening, mechanical thud echoed through the chamber as something breached the facility doors. A heartbeat later, the screams began. Muzzle flashes illuminated the darkness. Human operatives, clad in black, moved like shadows, methodical and ruthless. The Zalvok guards never stood a chance. Sorvar clenched his fists. "They attacked one of our labs? That's all. A single facility." Tarzek's expression was grim. "No, they just started with that." More reports flooded in. Silent incursions. Supply depots, command posts, research stations, all hit at once. No warnings. No survivors. "They aren't fighting a war," Kothrex realized aloud. His voice was eerily calm now, as if he had already accepted what was coming. "They're hunting..." Dr. Carter finally broke her silence. "They're sending a message," she said, her voice almost gentle. "This isn't about territory, not politics, not even justice." She stood, stepping forward, her cold gaze locking onto Sorvar's. "You took their children," she said, "and now they're reminding you why that was the worst mistake of your existence." The tribunal chamber was deathly silent once more. No one tried to argue. No one tried to defend the Zalvok, because they all understood something now. The war wasn't coming. It had already begun, and the humans weren't here to conquer. They were here to erase. Sorvar exhaled, his breath shaky. He had seen many battles, many wars, but this was annihilation. Dr. Carter turned, walking toward the exit. As she passed Tarzek, he spoke without looking at her. "How long before it's over?" She didn't stop. She didn't even hesitate. "It already is.